Runner fans, this is JJ Perez, and welcome back to another episode of my podcast called 13 Questions, where I sit down and talk with different people at UTSA and ask them the same 13 questions throughout the year. Welcome to episode 2 of the 2024 season 3 of the podcast. I'm a little bit behind this week. My schedule's been a little hectic the last 2 weeks or so, but I am glad to get this podcast up for you guys. This week, we are joined by a first-time guest on the podcast, Athletic Director Lisa Campos. We talked with Dr. Campos at AAC Media Day last month in Arlington. She was kind enough to give us several interviews throughout her time there, and I appreciate that. Pretty interesting conversation with Dr. Campos. We talk about, where she grew up, kind of her background, how she views the department now, NIL, and more. So I hope you guys enjoy my conversation. Dr. Lisa Campos, UTSA Athletic Director, on the 13 Questions Podcast. 13 Questions Podcast with Athletic Director Lisa Campos. Lisa, I started this podcast a few years ago because I'm trying to learn a little bit more about the people at UTSA outside of sports. So it's like a random question podcast.
And it's going to be random because I didn't get the questions ahead of time. Here we go.
But the thing is, everybody gets the same questions. Okay. So we'll get to see what the answers are.
All right, great.
Awesome.
I'm a little nervous. It's off the cuff.
And this is perfect. This is your first time on this podcast.
It is my first time.
What is...
Nothing like put me in the hot seat, JJ.
I sent the questions. I'm sorry you didn't get them. So tell me about where you grew up and what do you like about that place?
Oh, my goodness. I think people probably have heard this story. I grew up in a small town, southeast Colorado, population 3,000, one stoplight, one Dairy Queen. And what I love about where I grew up is it was just a really blue collar, roll up your sleeves, get it done, and everyone cared for one another because it was such a small community that you all had to chip in and support one another.
What's the name of the town or city?
It is called, it's not a city, It's called Los Animas, Colorado. Yeah,
awesome.
City of Lost Souls.
Wow.
Very fitting.
Do you ever, you go back, you still have family
Absolutely,
there?
yep. My parents still live there when they're not here in San Antonio, and I go back to my little one stoplight hometown.
Awesome. That's awesome. Question number 2. What personality trait do you have that you are most proud of?
Oh, personality trait. I think, for me, it's probably just being positive, like having a positive outlook. My ringtone is don't stop believing. And I think it goes back to my upbringing in the small town we just talked about. Like, you just had to dream big and believe anything was possible.
You think that comes from your parents also?
For sure. I mean, it's the whole community. My parents, their background. I always talk about every statistic says I shouldn't be here as having a doctorate degree, being a female athletic director, and so anything's possible, and you just always got to look for those opportunities.
Have you ever been stuck in an elevator?
I have.
Okay, so thinking about that experience, which current UTSA coach or other admin would you think you would least like to be stuck in an elevator with?
Oh my goodness. Who would I least like to be stuck in an elevator with?
Somebody earlier said Jeff because he's claustrophobic, but I think that's an easy one. I don't know, maybe someone on your staff or...
I know. I'm trying to think of who is claustrophobic or who doesn't like tight spots. Maybe I'll go with Jeff. Yeah. And then he would talk my ear off.
Yeah, he likes to talk. He could control the room. So question number 4, what is
Or maybe, I'm going to back up. Sorry, Dr. Amy. I don't know. He might.
Oh, wow. That's a good one.
He would try to figure out how to get out in every possible way.
President Amy, you guys be crawling through the ceiling or something, right? Blowing up the cable. That's a good one. Question number 4, what quality or skill do you envy in another admin?
Oh, what quality or skill? Man, I think, for me, I know I don't slow down enough. So people who can kind of slow down and balance that and just celebrate the wins. We get a win and I'm off to the next thing thinking, what's next? So for people to slow me down. I love people. I surround myself by really, really great people, but people also who help me recognize, Lisa, we got to slow down, and you got to appreciate and celebrate the things that we've done.
Question number 5, what is one of the less glamorous aspects about being an athletic director?
Less glamorous aspect. I think people have no idea of just the day-to-day of it. You know, I think people have this perception that you're just out golfing and having dinners and schmoozing with people, and they don't see, the work of whether it's just counseling your staff or helping student athletes in their day-to-day. And I shouldn't say that's not glamorous. That's why I got into it, was to help change the lives of these students.
People just don't realize how much of that is.
Absolutely.
Yep. This next one is kind of a wild card custom question for each person I'm doing. How would you, rate the overall state of the athletic department at this moment of time? Like, if you could give it a letter grade, where would you say it's at, and where do you need to improve, you think?
Well, I am never satisfied. So we have to get better. We always have to get better. But I'd say that we're really an A right now, but I want to be at an A++, right? The things we've done over the last 6 years, and this is what we just talked about, like really stopping and looking back at what we've done I've been here 6 years, and looking back at whether it's building brace, being able to find the funds to build the practice facility, to hiring the great coaches that we've done, to winning the conference championships we've won, not just in football but in other sports, to women's basketball to go to postseason and get a first ever postseason win, to the student athletes who are achieving the highest academic marks in program history. Like, there's just so much that we've done over the last several years that it's good to stop and celebrate that.
Awesome. That's an awesome answer. Question number 7. If you weren't an athletic director or administrator, what do you think you'd be doing? Like, what other interests do you have? Is there any other interest in sports maybe? Or what would be the road less traveled for Lisa Campos?
Well, I'm going to cheat a little bit. I mean, my first career wasn't in athletics. I was I was an assistant dean of students. I was doing all the campus discipline at UTEP, student activities, student success initiatives. So I thought my career was going to lead me to be a vice president for student affairs because of my passion for students. So I'm going to cheat a little bit. It'll still be in higher education, and I would either be a professor or an administrator in student affairs, or maybe a personal coach.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a great answer. How much media coverage do you consume of football or other sports, specifically about UTSA?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's probably not as much as I should, but obviously I listen, to the local, whatever it's either the San Antonio Express or listening to the local news or podcasts. But I really try to keep at a high level of what's happening out there nationally, and not just necessarily all the statistics and what's happening within our own programs, because I should know that more than what I'm reading about. But I really have liked to just really focus on what's happening on a national scale.
We're next question. We're a few years in with NIL. It's kind of evolving into different things kind of every year. What's your updated opinion on NIL? How do we fix it? Does it need to be fixed? Just what's your overall thoughts on that?
Yeah, I have a lot of mixed thoughts about it. I think, when you look at the intent and how it was supposed to be used and how student athletes have been able to do that, you look at a Caitlin Clark and what she's been able to do with her name, image, and likeness, and, some of those really high-profile students. And then you look at the pay-for-play and the recruitment and the tampering, and those are the things that we got to figure out how to get rid of that. And I think through this House settlement, there's some conversations about how that might be improved. But I think when it's really, truly about how student athletes should be able to profit in commercials, in these podcasts, in whatever, using themselves, that's the intent, and there's a lot of opportunity there.
It feels different, at least from the outside, at UTSA than maybe other schools, because it doesn't feel like there's a pay-for-play thing. It's more like, a little bit here to help students get through their tough times or whatever, pay some of their bills. You think that's an accurate
For sure. And I think that for sure the three collectives that we work with have a community service base to it. They actually have the intent of what that is getting our student athletes out in the community, helping promote the programs, helping them promote different not-for-profits, and that's certainly what it's supposed to be.
Question number 10. What is an opinion that you have about UTSA football that you don't think others have?
Oh, goodness. Well, everyone should have the opinion that we have an incredible opportunity this year to get into the CFP playoff.
Yeah.
Like, if everyone needs to close their eyes and imagine this and fill that Alamo Dome, support coach and the players, and show this nation why we belong in that CFP playoff. Yeah,
I think the Roadrunners may be one of the trendy picks this
right,
year.
Yes.
You guys were kind of in it a little bit last year, and I mean, is there any pressure there? What's the benefit and the downfall to being in that conversation?
No pressure for me. It's on Jeff. I've already done my thing. I hired Jeff. Now he needs to go perform. No, I'm joking. You know what? It is figuring out how to support Jeff and the team, and to get the city on board, and to get, again, fill that stadium, help us get the wins that we need to be in that position to be selected. And so that, buy your season tickets, go buy individual games, give a donation, we need the national media. So all the media in San Antonio nationally, how do we make sure that we're relevant in that room, right? There's a lot of individuals in that room making that decision, but it has to start with us winning a conference championship, and then being obviously the highest champion in the group of five.
Question 11 of 13. What is the current number one item on your personal bucket list?
Oh my goodness, on my personal bucket list. I don't have a personal life, JJ. I would say.
Did I see you do hiking, or you climb?
I have, yes. Yeah. I've done some great things. I've hiked the Grand Canyon up and back in one day. I've hiked a 14,000-foot mountain a couple of years ago. I've jumped out of a plane. So there's nothing big like that. It is maybe on my bucket list is maybe to go on a beach and have no access to cell phone or email for 24 hours.
Oh, wow. You probably have 500 emails waiting for you when you came back, though,
probably
right?
times 10, yes.
Yeah. Question number 12. Beyond winning, what is the best way to measure success in an athletic department?
I would say a couple ways. Obviously, are we graduating student athletes? Are we developing the students? Are they growing from freshman to senior year, which is a little bit harder now with the transfer portal.
Right.
But then are we retaining our staff? Are we retaining our coaches? Are people having a really great experience? And how are we engaging the community? And are we truly San Antonio's hometown team?
Yeah, the first point you mentioned, I like to highlight, right? Because I don't think people realize, these are kids, they're here for an education, and you guys have been pretty good these last few years at the graduation rate, and that's what really it's all about, right?
Absolutely. I say it all the time. This is why I got into it, is that outside of the GI Bill, athletic scholarships, NCAA scholarships are the biggest scholarship program for access to higher education, and a lot of our student athletes would not have been able to have access to UTSA had it not been for their athletic scholarship.
Question number 13 of the 13 questions podcast.
Lucky 13.
My last question for you. You talked about your 6 years here. Just how would you summarize the time you've been here? Is it kind of everything you thought it'd be? Do you have any regrets, or do you often think, or do you ever think of the road less traveled, maybe another opportunity that you may have had before here? And then what's next for you and the program?
Great question. You know what? It's been such an incredible journey. I always talk about we hire builders at UTSA, and you look at Dr. Ramey, he's a builder. He's hired builders. I would consider myself a builder. We knew that we had to build this program. And what I didn't anticipate is COVID, and that took many years off of all of our lives. But to think about, we had great momentum, COVID hits, we're resetting, and then to come out of it the way we've come out, and particularly being so young. I just focus on that to remind people we are competing against programs, particularly in football, who've been around for hundreds of years, right? And so I'm really proud of, again, the people we've hired, the success we've had, the students we've graduated. I would not have asked for anything different. And San Antonio. San Antonio has so embraced me and my family. We love the people. We love just the city. It's just been an awesome journey for all of us.
What's next? Just maybe the national spotlight, something like a CFP?
Absolutely. That's what we got our eye on. And I know Jeff probably doesn't want me to talk about that, but that's really, there's no reason we can't do that. And this is the first year we can do it, right? And to be a part of that. And I just hope San Antonio gets on board with that to when they think back 16 years or whenever, 2 years before the program started, how they didn't really imagine UTSA having football, and it happened, and fast forward, and we can really be in this national spotlight. So I hope everyone gets on board.
Awesome. Well, that'll wrap it up for the 13 Questions podcast. Thanks,
Thank
Lisa.
You.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate Lisa Campos jumping on the podcast to do that. I don't know if you guys noticed, but the athletic department, specifically with Campos, they've been a little bit more open to doing kind of different and more media availability stuff. So it's always good to hear from the leader of the department. Obviously, a really interesting conversation with her. I enjoyed kind of her background and getting to know what where she came from, kind of the things she views as important, and just highlighting the fact that these people always are tuned in and plugged in. So awesome conversation. I did appreciate her kind of opening up on how well the department is doing as a whole. If you guys go back and listen, she gave the letter grade for the department an A. I don't know if I fully agree with that. I would say probably B- in my opinion. If I had to pinpoint one thing, I think there's some fundraising issues, but as a whole, the department has grown. The budget has grown, and there's been some significant challenges with that. But all in all, the department feels like it's trending upward. And I think the challenge moving forward is going to be how the department continues on that path, right? So they don't take a step back, especially now that they're in the American Athletic Conference, and how they go about navigating those things. And then the other aspect of it is I enjoyed is the discussion about NIL. And I'm like everybody else, I kind of watch what other schools are doing, and it sounds like UTSA is working on something, and I'm hearing maybe there will be an announcement soon on what they're doing with NIL internally. I do agree that she had said something in a previous interview that, UTSA was in early on NIL, which I do think is technically true, but I also think there are aspects where optics matter a little bit. And I don't know that UTSA has been, on the forefront throughout the entire tenure of the NIL era. So it's good it's honestly, they've been pretty front forward recently, and it's noticeable, not only to myself, but to others. So we'll see how that goes. And then the other aspect of the discussion that I thought was, very interesting is, again, the open and honest discussion about what the college football playoff berth could potentially mean to the program, and kind of what's that being the next level for UTSA. So again, thanks to Dr. Campos for the interview. Appreciate you guys listening. If you guys have any feedback, please like, share, comment, rate, review, send them on social media. Let me know what you guys think, what you don't like, what you do like. I appreciate you guys listening. Next week, it is we get into some of the players at UTSA, and we'll talk with tight end Oscar Cardenas, one of the longtime Roadrunners on the roster and one of the leaders of the team in 2024. So be sure to tune back then. Thanks for listening, guys.